Culture swap.
Swap my culture.
Let's do culture swap.
Don't repeat it.
It's too late. Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. I keep wanting to put a "the" in front of it. There is not one.
Yeah, I thought there was a "the" when I tweeted about it earlier.
I keep wanting to call it Sabrina the Teenage Witch, which is the old 90s sitcom
it's very
version.
Different.
Yeah, very different.
Yeah.
So, this is, I think, based on the graphic novel that came out recently-ish, maybe?
Yeah. Well, isn't there an old school Sabrina?
I thought Sabrina had been going on for a while.
They revamped it, and they did like a new...
Got you right, so this is... Right, I see what you're saying. This is part of that revamp sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's kind of like the Riverdale revamp, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, where it's all darker and grittier, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is supposed to take place in the same, like, world is the wrong universe.
Yeah. Well, isn't...
Okay,
Riverdale is the next town along from Greendale.
Yeah, and it gets mentioned at least once in the series.
Yeah.
So, this graphic novel, I think, came out 2014.
Okay.
Yeah, the graphic novel that this is based on.
Yeah.
So this was recommended to us by Amanda and Kat, the two guests.
Yeah, so we'll let them explain what it's about and why they recommended it.
Which one of us would you like to start?
Both at the same time.
In unison.
I'll let Amanda start.
Well, I'm pretty sure Liam said, hey, you two are going to be guesting together, so you need to find something for us to talk about.
Yeah.
And so...
Yeah, and I think, was it me who suggested Sabrina?
Yeah, you were the one who suggested it.
I think probably because I wanted to watch it, but I hadn't got around to it yet, and needed a reason to watch it.
And I had already watched it once through, and so I was happy to talk about it, because I hadn't really talked to anybody about it yet.
Yeah.
What's it about?
Oh, right. I'm bad at this. I shouldn't be. I do podcasting. So
That's
Totally.
why I
What happened?
volunteered you to explain.
sorry, I forgot about. I was so focused on the why we chose it. So yeah, it is about a teenage witch, and can I get into spoilers now?
Oh,
Yeah. Listeners, this is going to have spoilers for Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. I'd recommend it.
Yeah, go watch it.
Shut up, Kat. Everyone makes mistakes.
cat fight.
Oh boy, I'm sure Kat's never heard that before.
Ha ha.
But yeah, go watch it, listeners, then come back and listen to our culture swap on it.
So, yeah, it's about Sabrina Spellman, who is a teenage witch. She's half witch, half human, and it starts out with, like, on the brink of her 16th birthday, where she's going to have to sign her name into the Book of Night and basically, like, officially join the coven and get rid of all of her links to humanity. And she's not so sure she wants to do that.
Which is fair.
So yeah, I think the first half of the season is about her trying to like make it work. Maybe slightly more than half. But then later on in the season, she kind of has to take more of a step into being a witch as opposed to her mortal life.
Yeah.
It opens, I think, like in the first episode, it quite quickly is like, look, we're not fucking around, and it shows you the demon lady, like the teacher gets stabbed in the neck.
Yeah.
Yep. How do you feel about the horror elements of it, Amanda? Because I know you're not a big fan.
That was something when I first started watching it that I was a little like unsure about, and there are parts where I just look away.
Yeah, there's some pretty like grim moments in the episodes.
There are definitely parts where I just look away, or even when I like watched it through a second time to talk about it with you guys, I was like, there are bits I can't, or like when because I hadn't seen the Christmas special before.
Okay,
Yeah.
And so when I finished that the other night, I was like, it was dark out, and I was like in bed, and Jeremy was already asleep. And I was like, I shouldn't have watched this at night.
Yeah.
So That was a bad decision on my part. So I put on To All the Boys I've Loved Before to just, like, get happy, good feelings.
Yeah.
To cleanse. I was like, I need something that's fluffy and fun and full of love. But, yeah, I thought the show would maybe scare me more than it did, but I was able to handle it, like, because it's very macabre, but I think largely, like, the horror stuff, it's just, like, little bits and pieces. There's not, it's not, like, constant.
Yeah, there's never, like, a whole episode where the horror is the main thing. Like, it's a
it's usually
story.
like a moment, isn't it? Like, there's one scene that's, like, particularly gory or scary, but then the rest of it kind of counterbalances
like even the Christmas special, which is heavily, like, there are poltergeists in the house, is, like, the poltergeist scene is one scene, and then the rest of it is, like, Roz and Susie trying to figure out this thing, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, well, and some of the stuff, like, there were certain episodes that reminded me a lot of, like, Buffy.
Oh, really?
Yep.
No, I get that. There's definitely, like, a similar sort of vibe where between the level of, like, dark and light, it does, like, Buffy was quite good at kind of balancing that. There were definitely, I can't remember the most famous episode that's just, like, proper grim. Is it called
Hush?
Yeah. Is it Hush?
Yeah.
But but yeah, no, I get that. I see where you're coming from with that.
Like, not every episode, but some of them definitely, particularly the one with, like, the sleep demon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I thought that one was going to be a lot darker than it was. It was more kind of like, I guess I'd describe it as more like camp horror as opposed to scary horror, which is kind of how I've described, like, the Evil Dead in the past. Like, the original is kind of just camp horror. It's not really scary. What are you giggling at, Liam?
The thought of Amanda watching The Evil Dead being this is fine, it's camp horror. Kat said it's not too scary.
No, Jeremy tried to show that to me once when we first started dating. It didn't go well.
No, I can see that.
But to you, I mean, I know Liam will know what I mean when I say that. Like, it's not, like, gory or scary, a lot of it. It's kind of just...
Yeah.
It's almost, like, fun scary.
Yeah, I know.
I thought the more horrific stuff was actually, like, the cannibalism side.
Yeah. Oh, that
Yeah.
I was not expecting.
That's a fucking wild turn it takes
it really
very
is.
early on. And the fact that, like, Zelda is so fine with it.
Well,
Yeah.
I get it. I get why she is, but, like, it's such a change from because, again, my only experiences with Sabrina are this and Sabrina the Teenage Witch, where her aunts were definitely not cannibals.
Yeah.
no, I mean, that's one thing that this is so drastically different from any other form of Sabrina that we've seen visually before.
Yeah, totally.
Because
Yeah,
I mean, go ahead. Sorry, Kat.
That's what I was just going to say. I didn't really know what to expect when we started watching it, because I just knew that lots of people were watching it and were like, oh, it's really good, it's really good, but no one was really going into how different it was. So that was a bit of a, like, shock when we first started watching it. I was like, oh shit, this is not what I thought it was going to be at all. I thought it was going to be all that sort of, like, camp horror stuff where it was just a bit of fun, but then it did get pretty dark.
I think for me, like, the spooky bit that maybe worked best is when you had, I think it was towards the end of the season, the witches coming back.
The 13
witches.
Yeah.
That I thought was really well done.
Yeah, it was, definitely.
There were still, even when I watched that episode in particular the second time through, that, like, some things made me jump, and I was like, I should have looked away! I knew it! I should have looked away!
Yeah.
But
The other thing is, so for Christmas, I've got, like, a surround sound system, and this show with surround sound is
it's really good.
Yeah.
Oh god, with the laughing children, that would be
that was good, but spooky.
Oh no, I just watched it on my tablet with headphones, so I'm glad I didn't. That would have freaked me out so bad.
Yeah, that was awesome.
See,
So, what did we think of my least favourite part of this, which was how Harvey keeps calling her Rena?
Brina.
It's Brina.
Brina.
So you don't even know what he's saying, so your point is now
Hate it.
entirely invalid and we can move on.
I hate it.
It did.
Why?
It did really annoy me.
Why?
It just sounded dumb.
The other nickname she could have is Sab.
No, just call her
Which is-
Sabrina.
Yeah.
No, he calls her Brina, and it's
Ugh,
adorable,
no.
and I love them, and I ship them.
Oh no.
What about Brie?
Huh?
Call her Brie.
No, I would have hated
It's
that
just-
too.
no,
Oh,
that's-
Yeah,
Well, that's
you
sad.
would have hated that, Liam, because
Yeah,
you didn't
I'm-
like Brina.
I think
No, I'm
So you
happy
wouldn't
with
have liked
Sab.
Brie
Bree.
would be too cutesy.
Bree's also like a name. You get Bree.
Yeah,
names.
I know. That's why it works.
Yeah, I
But
did.
Brina's like a nickname.
No, we
Brina's
didn't like
awful.
it. We weren't a
No.
fan.
I love Harvey, so
No,
you two can
Harvey's
shut
a
up.
wet blanket.
No, he's not.
Yeah, he is.
No,
He is.
no, he is not a wet
He
blanket.
is.
He shoots his dead brother by himself,
Yeah, but he's
and
really
then
whiny
and then
about
deals with
it,
it
isn't
better than
he?
anyone in this show deals with anything.
That's
Everyone's
true.
like, she's like, Harvey, how are you? And he's like, yeah, no, like pretty shit, but I'll come to school.
So I was so impressed by Ross Lynch as Harvey, partly because he plays Jeffrey Dahmer in My Friend Dahmer.
Oh,
And that
does
was-
he?
Oh, does he?
Oh, I
Yes.
didn't know that. Oh.
Oh.
And that was the last thing I saw him in. And then I watched this and I was like, holy shit, that guy has range. Like, those are
Yeah.
so different.
I don't know. I didn't really rate him, but I think it's because I'm more interested in, like, the Church of Night side. I'm more interested in Sabrina falling into the darker side. Her mortal life doesn't interest me that much.
No, I like,
like Roz.
and Susie.
Yeah, Susie's alright.
It's just Harvey. I'm like, if they turned around and were like, Sabrina, you have to kill Harvey, and she's like, oh damn, okay. I'm like, cool.
She would
I
never
love
do that
Harvey.
because she loves him.
See,
No.
I feel like I'm in the middle with Harvey. I like Harvey. I like him a lot better than the Harvey in the sitcom.
Oh yeah, he really
Yeah.
was a proper wet blanket.
Yes. Like, I am annoyed with Harvey in the Christmas episode.
What?
The bit with the whole like not accepting any of her help at all just because it's magic or for a different reason.
I didn't
No,
like that he
exactly
gave the
that.
gift back.
Rude.
Yeah. He should have kept
I-
his magic pencils.
Yeah, his whole, like, I need you to not do any magic around me at all.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, really, dude? And I wanted Sabrina to be like, well, hey, you know how you were saved from the mining collapse? That's because I put a protection spell on you. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you'd be dead. Like,
Yep.
But to be fair, the counter argument to that is like any time Sabrina says anything where she's like, yeah, but this bit of magic saved you, he just has to go, yes, and then you did magic and I ended up having to shoot my brother in the head, Sabrina.
yes.
Actually, sorry, he would say, I had to shoot my brother in the head, Brina.
Oh,
And I would have cringed. I would have cringed
yeah.
every time.
He's also to be fair to him, it's not like at that point she has broken up with him, so like they're not dating, so like her getting him a gift is sweet and nice, but he's like, we're not dating, I'm still trying to get over you. In that episode, she's like, you said that when you look at me all you can see is your dead brother, is that still true? And he's like, it's getting better, but yeah, that's true. So it's not like he's like, oh no, I really like Sabrina, I don't want her to do magic. He's still dealing with the fact that she really
Yeah,
fucked him up.
I get it, but at the same time, it's like, I guess because you're always going to sympathise more with Sabrina because you see the intent behind what she's doing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she is trying to do... That's the thing. She is always trying to do the right thing. It's just a lot of the time she might not think some of those things through.
Yeah.
well, she has a serious problem of being 16 and thinking she's smarter than every single adult.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when the adults are like, we're now going to eat someone.
Well, okay. That's
She's
true,
like,
though.
no.
She shouldn't listen to Mrs. Wardwell and to Faustus. Like, she shouldn't
Yeah.
listen to them.
Yeah.
And sometimes Zelda is a bit much. But when Hilda is telling her not to
Yeah.
do stuff, she should listen to Hilda.
Yeah, Hilda is smart.
She is, and she's never done anything to hurt Sabrina, like, in the way, like, Zelda sometimes says, like, word daggers, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, Hilda is, like, She's so pure. I love
Yeah, I was
Hilda
genuinely
so much.
about to say that she is so pure. That's just the best way to describe her.
Yeah. Ellie, I've got a little fun thing for you. So did you know Zelda is played by Miranda Otto?
No.
Do you know?
I don't know actresses or actors.
So do you know what else Miranda Otto is in? Because it is a film
just
that
told
you're
you
a
I
big
don't.
fan of.
What?
Lord of the Rings.
Who does she play?
Eowyn?
Is that really?
Yeah.
Whoa!
Yeah,
Mind
I knew that would
blown.
blow your little mind.
Yeah. I can sort of see it. Now that you've said that and I'm picturing the two together, I can
Yeah.
sort of see it.
To be fair, I was watching an episode of Frasier that she was in, and Liam walked in and was like, "Do you know who that is?" And I was like, "No." And we'd literally watched Sabrina like the night before, and she doesn't look any different. She literally looks exactly the same, and I could not connect the two. She just looked a bit older now than she did in Frasier, obviously.
I think I didn't really like her at the start of the show.
No,
I
she's really
warmed
grown
to her
on me.
more towards the end.
Yeah.
I think because you're getting the whole show from Sabrina's, like, even though it's not all from her perspective, she is our main character, and I think that the way Zelda changes throughout the show reflects how Sabrina spends a lot of the show thinking about her, because I think she loves them all, but at the beginning Zelda is very much the, like, she's into the witchcraft, and that's the bit I don't like. And then the bit that made me completely change on Zelda was the scene where Sabrina just yells at her and's like, "Stop trying to be my mum, you're not my mum." And Zelda just immediately, you see how much that hurts her.
Yeah.
And then even Hilda's you shouldn't, why would you say that? And I was like, oh shit, Zelda does just love Sabrina. Like, yes, she's strict and wants it to be the old witchcraft ways, but she's never going to do anything to hurt Sabrina because she does think of her as a sort of daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she says something along those lines, like an episode or two beforehand, the Feast of Feasts ones,
Yeah.
where, you know, Sabrina's like, well, what would have happened if I was the Queen of Feasts? And like right at the end, Zelda's like, I wouldn't have let that happen. Like,
Yeah.
and so I think like you get little glimpses of it, but like you said, Ellie, it's that moment where she's so hurt that it's
Well, it's
just
the
like,
first time you really see her actually vulnerable, I think, where she actually, like that wall comes down a bit, that you've got so used to her seeing, like seeing her as being this really, like, almost that heartless character. But then that vulnerability comes out, and that sort of is quite a big shift in the rest of the show.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's interesting that Zelda's greatest nightmare is that her sister is gone.
Yeah.
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 Because as she puts up all of these, like, walls, but there is that vulnerability deep down that she just doesn't want anybody to see.
The whole, like, killing her sister, though.
Well, that was just funny.
It's because she knows she can bring her back.
Yeah.
It's not actually,
I
like,
don't know, the
in
first
her
time
world.
it happened, I was like...
Oh yeah, it's
What?
fucking... When it happens, you're like, sorry, what, did they just kill off Hilda?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that was insane. I genuinely was like, what the fuck is this show doing?
I feel like if that was an option, Ellie would do that to me.
Probably,
I wouldn't.
I would.
Because I imagine you would still feel the pain of dying, which I think is pretty horrifying.
I like that Kat was like, yeah, I'd do it.
Yeah,
No
it's Kat you need to worry about,
hesitation.
Liam.
I would.
Yeah.
Yeah, but another character we need to speak about, which we haven't, and Liam knows
Ambrose.
it yet. Ambrose. It's
Yeah,
so
Ambrose
good.
is like the best character in the
He's
show.
my favourite too. I love him.
I love him.
I love him.
I don't
He's
really have a
amazing.
lot more to say than that, other than I love him and I think he's a great character. And
Yeah, he's... I just love... I love the whole, like, his relationship with Sabrina.
Yeah.
With the whole, like, he's sensible and knows that she's fucking shit up, but he also doesn't really have a go at her a lot of the time, and he'll be like, yeah, you fucked up, but... Like, especially with the Christmas special, with the whole seance, where he's like, no, that's stupid, don't do it.
Yeah.
And then she does it, and everyone's annoyed at her, and Ambrose is annoyed at her, and then he sits down just across from her and goes, so, cuz, what did you hear about, what did your mum say to you? And you're like, he's annoyed, but he's also like, no, but I see why you did it, and it's important,
Well,
and I'm interested.
And when she says that she wasn't able to ask any questions, he's like,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Cause
yeah,
He's just so lovely.
I love him. He's
Yeah.
nice to look at too, which helps.
Yes.
he's very pretty.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree.
Yep.
I'm curious where they're going to take his character in the future, because it felt like
They're
trying to
slowly
pull him
like
into-
getting him out of the house now, because obviously
Yeah.
he was confined to the house, which worked for so long. But I can see why they were like, yeah, we need to do a bit more with him by having him involved at the academy now.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you say, it'll be interesting to see whether that then expands and his like world gets a bit bigger. Or
There's definitely in the last episode, like not the Christmas special, there's definitely the sort of they established at least some of the this is what could happen in season 2 with the whole like the rest of the warlocks in the college like pledging allegiance to Faustus's son, and Ambrose just standing there like, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah.
So like clearly there's like I found it weird though, because this is I don't even know if this is meant to be weird or if it was just me noticing it, but in that episode, Ambrose's boyfriend, who I can't remember his name.
I want to say it's Luke or something. It's something
Yes,
normal,
is
isn't
it Luke?
Yeah.
I think it might be.
Yeah.
Yeah, Luke.
He's in that room and he does the whole pledge to the kid. And then in the Christmas special, he is in the room with the family at the end.
And he knows about the
When-
daughter.
Yes, Ambrose makes a joke about how they've kidnapped the daughter. And Luke's just fine, like sitting there smiling all happy. And I was like, I thought the whole rest of the season was establishing this like, Luke is kind of loyal to Faustus.
Yeah.
And there's going to be an issue where Ambrose is like, Luke, you're like too far gone in this.
I did read that they filmed the Christmas episode after they filmed the first episode of like the second half of this season, which is airing in
Okay.
April.
April? Yeah, April.
And it was because the creator Roberto Aguirre-Sacasa didn't have the idea for the Christmas episode until like they were halfway through filming
Oh, okay.
that one or something. So I do kind of wonder like if this Christmas one is gonna like, I don't know, like if it'll end up being a little like kind of on its own, or if it's fully gonna be
Yeah.
in the like arc of the whole season. It's just I wasn't sure, because I do think like there's some plot holes a little bit with, like you said, Luke's character in particular,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because there's one point where like Hilda puts something in his coffee when like he's at the bookstore,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
and I don't know if it was like her casting a love spell on him or something.
That was what I read.
Yeah, that's
out
what
of
I
that.
what I
read
thought
from
was
it.
happening.
That's what I thought was going on.
But it felt to me like there was a scene missing of like him and Ambrose getting back together.
Yeah.
Because it's just like when Ambrose shows up at the school, suddenly they're together. And then Luke
Yeah.
is like telling him he loves him in the last episode. So it just felt like maybe there was a scene cut at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, potentially.
And then Ambrose is supposed to be allowed at the school to teach, but then he was like out in the woods with Luke, and he was
Yeah.
at the school to help like protect the mortals. So it was just like, well, is he only allowed at the house and school, or is he allowed throughout all of Greendale now? Like that seems
Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't really.
Yeah.
It does seem weird, and they don't explain that. Yeah.
yeah, that just seemed like a small, like a couple little plot holes, and it largely seemed to do with Luke, because it was like in the woods with Luke, and then like Luke like stole him into the
Yeah.
Church of Night, like kind of thing.
Also, how were people in that episode not annoyed with all the people that were kidnapping them out of that fucking circle? Because if some dude that I was massively in love with was like teleporting me out of a circle and being like, no, but I had to save you, I'd be like, yeah, I get that. But me and my family are currently trying to save all the mortals, and you've just made that really fucking difficult.
Yeah.
Like, Zelda I get, because she is annoyed, but then it's like, well, she's gone into labour, and Zelda's like, well, I did say I'd help, so I will.
Yeah.
But Ambrose is just like, why did you kidnap me, Luke? I love you, Ambrose. Oh, okay.
Yeah, no worries.
I was like, no!
Fuck the mortals.
I don't entirely trust Luke, and that's kind
Oh,
of
no,
what
no.
I got out of that scene.
No, 100%.
The whole, did we, remind me, because I did have a big gap in between the first half of the season and finishing it, because I knew we were doing this episode, so I stopped. But there's that whole plot point at the beginning where that guy is murdered, and and that's how Ambrose meets Luke. And I was getting the whole implication being that Luke was the murderer, and Ambrose had just fallen in love with him and didn't realise. That's what I was taking from that.
I
There
had
was loads
the
of
same
suspicious
feeling.
shit. Yeah, And then does anything get resolved with that? I can't remember if they resolved it later.
No.
So I still think Luke's the murderer.
Well, and I think part of it is technically what we've watched is the first half of season 1.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this is part 1.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I wonder if that's going to come back in the second half.
It could do, yeah, because I guess it's not actually... if it's not a whole new season, that would
I thought
make
it
sense.
was a second season.
It's called part 1 and
Yeah.
part 2.
Okay. Because on IMDb it's listed as a second season.
Oh, sorry. Let me just... I'll fuck Netflix calling it part 1 and part 2. IMDb has spoken, Liam.
Right, but the next bit could be called, like, part 3.
No.
Yeah, it might be.
Because
Who knows?
I've already read they have renewed it for a second season, and they're splitting that into 2 parts also.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
It's just the way that it's structured. It's in 2 parts.
Yeah.
I will admit, Liam, it is weird.
Yeah.
How many episodes was part 1? It was like 10.
10?
So I
10
wonder
plus
whether
the
part
Christmas
2 will
special.
be like 8 or something. It'll be slightly shorter to make.
No, it's 10 according to IMDb,
okay.
but fuck IMDb apparently.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, I don't think IMDb knows how to handle when things are split up into 2 parts.
Exactly.
Because HBO has done that before, where they'll split a
Yeah.
season into 2 parts.
Well, Walking Dead does it a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But that's just usually a Christmas break, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's not officially labelled as, like, part 1 and part 2. That's just...
Yeah.
Like, a lot of shows have a mid-season break. But this is, like, a full-on... I don't know, because that's, like, 3 months.
It's
I
just
don't know.
different, basically.
It is different.
What did we think of Kiernan Shipka's portrayal of Sabrina?
I like her a lot. I think she's
Yeah.
good.
It took me a long time.
I know
to
you kept
stop
saying she looked like
seeing-
Emma Watson and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
I was like, no,
What?
she doesn't. Just,
No,
Yeah.
she doesn't.
just,
I couldn't stop
just go
seeing
with
it.
it.
See, I was so used to her from Mad Men.
Yeah. See,
never watched
you've
Mad
not
Men.
seen it, so we
Oh,
can't really
okay.
draw the comparison.
Because she played the daughter in Mad Men, like all of the seasons. She was Sally Draper, and I really liked her in this. I thought it's very different from what she did in Mad Men, and I mean she's so young. She's only 19. I think she's super talented.
Yeah.
She is, yeah. She's really
I
good.
think at first, whilst you're getting used to her, she does feel very much like a comic book character. She's
Yeah.
wittier than anyone you know. She's more together than anyone you know. And then as it sort of starts to unravel, it feels more like realistic. Her character feels more like developed than
Yeah.
you first feel in the earlier episodes, I think.
So, why do they want her name in the book so badly?
Because then you've made a deal with the Dark Lord,
Yeah.
and he can call on you at any time.
Yeah.
And she's clearly... They've said that she's the most powerful witch of her generation, because she's the only the 4th witch ever to be able to summon hellfire.
Okay.
So
But did
she's
they
like
know
the
she
most
was that
powerful.
powerful before
Yeah,
they wanted the name?
that's why they want her to. That's why the Dark Lord wants her
Yeah.
to sign. Yeah.
I think the Dark Lord and Madam Satan definitely know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we think that, like, the next part is going to be her trying to reverse her name being in the book? Or do you think she'll just go with it?
I don't know, because I was expecting when she talked to her mom, for her mom to reveal something more than just like, I was worried people wouldn't love you. Like,
Yeah.
because when she encounters her mom in Limbo, she's like, they took my baby right away. And I'm like, I feel
Yeah.
like there's something more there. There's more
Yeah.
of a
There
story.
definitely is.
And
There's definitely something to do with Zelda and Hilda as well, because in that whole seance bit, when Zelda's like, yeah, we'll try again. If you don't ask, we'll just try another time. And then Hilda looks at her with a look of like, what are you saying? Because I think that Zelda and Hilda were some part of the kidnapping of Sabrina or whatever, and they don't want to admit how tied to it they are, especially Hilda.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
So I think there will be more revealed. But I thought it was weird that the seance, there wasn't a whole lot of revelation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought there would be more, and that's why I wonder if this is more of like a slightly out of time episode with the Christmas
Yeah,
one.
definitely could be.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Going forward, I think that you're gonna get more of Dark Sabrina, especially when she's like
I hope
with
so.
the Weird Sisters.
Yeah.
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 I didn't like them at first, and then I still they've grown on me a little bit, but I'm still not like their biggest fan.
Prudence has really grown on me. I really like her now.
Her hair's got better.
Yes, her hair has got better, but I also feel like her character now has more flesh and bone to it, so it's less like of a caricature. Because I felt like the Weird Sisters were like these. I didn't really care about them at first. I was like,
they were just the mean schoolgirls, but witches.
Whereas now Prudence knows what she knows. I feel like she's going to be a more interesting character. I don't know about the other two. I'm a bit ambivalent to them, but
okay. One thing I do not understand is Agatha, the brunette, weird sister, is listed as a main character in the credits.
Yeah,
but like the one friend isn't.
Which friend isn't?
Not Roz, the other
Susie.
Yeah.
She's not listed as a main character.
She's not in the open credits, is she?
What the fuck?
She's not in the opening credits, and Susie gets so much more screen time than Agatha or Dorcas. And I'm like, Agatha has just as much screen time as Dorcas does. Yeah. And why is Agatha...
I wonder whether they're like bigger names, like, that people would potentially recognise.
Adeline Rudolph has literally only been in Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
Oh.
She's the one that plays Agatha.
Yeah.
She doesn't even have a Wikipedia page of her own. Like, it makes no sense that she's listed as a main character in the opening credits, and the girl who plays Susie isn't.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
Or the one that plays Dorcas.
Yeah.
Can I point out that Dorcas is a stupid name?
Yes, you can, because it is.
It has Dork at the beginning.
Yeah, here's the thing,
you can't be the cool chick if your name is Dorcas.
If this is set in the Riverdale universe, which it is, you just have to get on with the stupid names.
That's true.
It's because they're all from the 1950s originally.
Yeah.
When these comics were originally written.
What time... So I know that you keep saying, Liam, that this is the same universe, which it is, because Riverdale's in it, or mentioned. Yeah. But what time are these set in? Because me and Liam early on, I was like, this is set in the 1950s or 60s. And Liam was like, no, I think it's modern day. Yeah. But there are numerous episodes. All the cars they drive are old. Yeah. The episode where they rescue the people from the mine, all the nurses are wearing 1950s nurse uniforms.
Yeah, there is an inconsistency.
And no one uses... It's weird.
There is a scene where Harvey has a smartphone.
Yeah, this is the thing. Yeah. I
just don't understand.
I think it's set in modern day, but Greendale is just like one of those towns that's trapped in its olden times. Because if you think about the bookshop and things like that, that's all very like more old fashioned than today. So I think it's just like, I think it's just stuck in its time.
Yeah, and I think that's partially so they could like stylistically do some of the costuming and stuff like that. Because
exactly.
The graphic novel or in like the comics that it's based on, because there's more than one now, like it's an ongoing series, but it is based in the 50s and 60s in the comics.
But I don't know why they've chosen to set in modern times, because apart from like a pretty throwaway scene where you just see Harvey with a smartphone, there isn't a lot else that is like, this needs to be a modern day.
There's no really any reference to the internet, which I feel if it was deliberately set in modern times, the internet would play quite a big role in it, because people would be researching about witches or I just feel like it would play a bigger part in it if they were very deliberately trying to set it in the modern day. Like in Riverdale, there's really modern references.
Yeah.
Like literally the episode we watched the other day references Ozark. So they make it very obvious that it's set in these times, whereas Sabrina is like super ambiguous.
Well, originally, Liam was saying, at least, so I hope this is true and not just Liam making shit up, which he does do sometimes. They were originally going to do crossovers in this, where like characters from Riverdale. So I guess you make it modern times so that when you cross Riverdale over it, which if you're I haven't seen Riverdale, but if like that has a lot of modern references, that means they're like, oh shit, this has to be modern day. But also, like Amanda said, they don't want to lose the stylistic
I don't think
choices.
I don't think I said that they were going to. I know that the creator has said that he's open to the idea of
I really hope they do. I want them to, because I'd be
I like the fact that Sabrina's its own thing.
So that's because you haven't seen Riverdale. If you'd seen
The
Riverdale...
worry, no, I know, but the worry is that, like, so I think that the reason they were considering it or whatever was because they were like, well, that will give Sabrina a boost because Riverdale's doing well. Then if we can
I don't think it's about
cast
that.
this as a spin-off.
I don't know, Liam, you've seen... I know you've seen both, so I don't know how you feel about it, but...
Oh, I think there's definitely characters in Riverdale that would work well in Sabrina.
Amanda, have you seen Riverdale?
I've watched the first season. You guys talked about it on Won't Grow Up, and I really liked it. So this was originally supposed to be a companion series on the CW with Riverdale. So it was supposed to be closer and like have crossovers and stuff like that the way like other CW series do, like the Arrow and Flash and Supergirl. And so it was originally supposed to work that way, but then it ended up going over to Netflix. So they're still in the same universe, but I think because they have like different companies where they're being shown, it's harder to do that crossover now.
Yeah, I suppose that makes sense. I just like the idea of certain characters from Riverdale crossing over into Sabrina. Yeah. Like the main one for me would be Cheryl.
Yeah.
From Riverdale, I think she would work really well in that. And because this won't give a lot away about Riverdale, but this season of it has been, there's definitely ways in which it could work because there's been like a slight, like I say a slight, a very strong cult/occult vibe to Riverdale that would definitely make sense in Sabrina's world as well. I just want to see it. Like, I don't care if it's not a good crossover. I just want to see it happen.
I think it could work. It would just, you'd have to get the CW. I mean, because it's like the same like production team. Like Roberto Aguirre-Sacasa started both of them. Like he's the showrunner or whatever. And so I think it would just depend on getting like Netflix and the CW to work together.
There's definitely been opportunities on both shows where it could have happened, especially with Riverdale on that side of things. But the fact that it hasn't happened so far makes me wonder whether they are deliberately going to keep them separate or not.
We need Harvey Kinkle, Brother Slayer, to come onto Riverdale and murder someone's brother.
I'm trying to think if anyone has a brother on Riverdale.
No, they don't, Liam, because Harvey Kinkle's already been there.
Yeah, he's murdered them all.
No, not technically, without giving any more.
You can't see,
Riverdale.
but I'm putting a face like, yeah, see, I'm right.
So Harvey's secretly a serial killer, and that's where his darkness
I think I'd like him
from.
more if that was more.
That's why when Sabrina was like, don't worry, Harvey, I'll deal with this, he was like, no.
This one's mine.
I'll deal with this. This is what I do. Also, do we think anything's going to happen with the whole, like everyone's family history, right, has had something to do with it, except for Harvey's, which is just, your family were witch hunters. So far, none of them have shown any sign that they remember that, except maybe
his grandpa.
Possibly because they killed the familiar. Which you could maybe read as, like, the grandpa knew what he was doing.
Yeah, I think he did.
But even then, like, everyone else's, like, Susie and Roz's are both like, you've got this weird family history, and that is, like, a major thing about you now. Like, Susie can stop fucking ghost witches, because she's like, no, my aunt was a badass. You get out of my house.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see that expanded next. In the next half of the season.
Because they mentioned his granddad again with his dad drinking. And Sabrina was like, oh, why don't you get your granddad? And he was like, no, he doesn't want to. Or Dad doesn't want him to. It'd be kind of cool if his granddad was just like, guess what, Harvey? You're a witch hunter. Let's go kill some witches.
Well, and
would that be cool?
That's where I kind of worry because of his I don't even want witchcraft around me at all. And that's where I'm, like, annoyed with Harvey because I'm sort of like, well, you know that this is in the world now, so maybe stop being in denial.
Unless Harvey knows something about his family that he's not really, like, letting on to. He might not have necessarily known that they were witch hunters, but he might have known that there is a darker side that he didn't realise was connected until he found out about them being witch hunters. I don't know.
I don't feel like he's complicated enough to have that.
No, that's true.
shades.
Yeah, he's pretty
Yeah, he's not
pretty
that
simple.
bright.
Yeah.
You shut your mouth, Liam.
He's simple. It's why I said he was like a wet blanket. There's not a lot to him at the moment.
I like Harvey, but he is simple.
Yeah. Come on, Ellie, just admit it.
I wish I could see Ellie's face right now.
Same.
I'm laughing, so it would just be me looking happy.
See,
I'm just loving that you guys. I'm forcing you guys to all defend the fact that Harvey's simple, while I just stubbornly go, no, he's not. Leave him alone.
I mean, he's a good artist.
He is.
He's
He's a
got
great
that going
artist,
for him.
and all artists are complex. Leave him
Except for
alone.
Harvey.
I have a question about Sabrina's other friends then. Like, what did you guys think about Susie and Roz?
I was just about to ask that, so I'm pleased you brought it up, Amanda. Okay, let's do Roz first.
I love Roz. I think she's great.
Yeah, I like her. I like where they're going with her.
I like where they're going now that it seems like she's some sort of medium or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first half of the season, she just annoyed me.
Oh, really?
Yes. I think partially it just seemed, I don't know, there was something, particularly watching it through the second time, where the whole thing with, like, the books and the, I don't know, it seemed like they were just trying to come up with some reason to keep her in the episode. Like,
Yeah.
and I mean, the whole idea of, like, going blind is awful, as I know you know.
Yeah, when we were watching it, we were like, fucking hell, we just can't escape this, can we? It's everywhere.
I was like, relatable content.
I did, even the first time I watched it, before I knew we were going to do this, I was like, oh no, I wonder if that's how Liam feels with, like, movies. Like, has to...
No, but Liam can't see cool visions, so his is worse.
Can't see what?
I said you can't see cool visions, so yours is worse.
Oh, yeah.
I really thought that joke had fallen really flat. I'm glad you just didn't hear what I said, because I said it and then everyone was silent, and I was like, oh.
I didn't quite hear it, but yeah,
Cool.
no, I get it.
What's cool vision?
You know the
Maybe-
visions that she has in the
Oh
show?
my god, Liam.
Oh, I get
So
yeah.
she's
You don't
losing
see
her
cool
vision,
visions.
but she's able to see these things that you can't,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's worse for
She is-
you. is
So I
what
was
she
implying
saying.
yours was worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you get it now?
Yeah, thanks, Kat.
That's okay.
But
Anytime.
I think the thing that, like, really bugged me about Roz was when she was like, I have to read all the books, and I can't lose any time reading books. And I was like, girl, you can read books on your own at home. Like, just because you can't read them for school doesn't mean you can't read a book.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. I think I just liked her because I thought I thought she was quite cool in a way. I don't know what it was about her that I just got good vibes from her. But
Yeah.
Like, she was growing on me by the end. I like
her grandma was very cool. I liked
Yeah.
her a lot.
Yes, I liked the grandma.
Yeah.
She was
Yeah.
like the typical like old wise woman who knew everything basically.
Yeah.
In the episode with the 13 witches, what was the grandma's plan? Because I get her being like, oh, I've seen that I'm going to die, so I'm just going to stay here. But then when Roz and Susie turn up, she's not like, no, girls, you're not getting this. I've seen a ghost horseman is going to come kill everyone. I'm dying anyway. Just go be safe. Instead, the grandma's like, yeah, no, that's cool.
I think
And then even then-
she knew about Susie and
But Susie doesn't protect them from the horsemen. The
No,
only
that's true.
people Susie protects them from are the witches. And then she's like, oh, is it over? And the grandma's like, no, he's coming. Because he doesn't care that her mum, her aunt saved the witches.
I think
Great
that's
aunt.
a fair question, because since Susie's the only child, she's the firstborn and would have died.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly, yeah. The horseman would have been like, yeah, no, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah. So let's talk about Susie. Ellie, did you read that article that I mentioned?
No, did you? I didn't haven't had time to track it down.
No worries. So halfway through watching it, I knew Ellie had started, and I sent Ellie a message being like, "Is Susie trans?" Because I wasn't sure. And I think Ellie, you initially were like, "No." And
No.
then as
I
you
think
got-
it was more like, I was like, there's not enough... like, there were definitely little hints.
yeah, in all
Yeah.
fairness,
Like-
there isn't enough evidence from what you've seen to know
No,
for
I mean,
sure.
even at the end, I am positive, and from stuff that we've read,
Yeah.
I know that the character is non-binary.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
but what I thought was interesting because you watched more and then you were like, "Oh, maybe she is."
Oh no, I was like, oh, I think she's at least non-binary, because there's the scene where her aunt calls her a brave boy and all that stuff, and Susie's not like, well, that's fucking weird. I'm seeing my dead aunt and she doesn't know me. And every time someone refers to Susie as he or says she's a brave guy, she's like, yeah, I am.
Yeah, she seems really happy to be referred to.
But she's also not like, when people call her she isn't freaking out and getting depressed, which makes me think she's non-binary.
Yeah. No, yeah, and so...
Or at least gender
There was
fluid.
an article I read, so the actress is non-binary. So not actress, actor.
Actor.
Yeah.
Actor. And initially the character was written to be trans, and in like the first half of the season was going to come out to like Sabrina and Roz. But then when they hired the actor that they hired, whose name is...
Lachlan Watson.
Thank you. They used their experience to inform the character. So the writers worked with the actor to provide a more, I don't think accurate is the right word, but more like honest kind of representation.
Because they were like, I can represent a non-binary person.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, cool.
Which
I mean,
I thought was
that is still
interesting.
trans.
So there was an article that I read, which was saying, basically, the article was saying that the show didn't do a good job because the writer was bored of seeing like non-binary or trans characters just kind of going through shit. They're like, why can't we just see a happy non-binary or trans character? I'm like, but that doesn't really fit with any other character in Sabrina.
No, but
nobody's happy.
But you can. The issue would have been, right? Like, I don't. It's difficult because the fact that you could end this season and you could say, I don't know if Susie is non-binary.
Yeah.
That means to me that they've done a bad job telling us it, but I also think it avoids a certain bullet, which is doing the just generic, because like you don't have to show. It's not that there's not happy trans people or non-binary characters. I'm trying to phrase what I'm trying to say here.
We're all waiting.
It would have been an issue. It would have been an issue if Susie, throughout the series, her problem was, I'm non-binary and no one accepts me. Because that's the story that everyone just trots out anytime they're like, oh, let's do some trans representation. It's just, look how sad everyone is. So Susie can still have problems, but the moment they make it just, her problem is that no one likes that she's trans, that's when I'd be like, oh, well, that's not representation. That's just you trotting out trans people.
I personally think they actually did quite a good job of just keeping it, like, not the main part of the character.
Which is, it shouldn't be.
I don't feel like people are on board or aware enough of what non-binary means in the, like, general population that might be watching Sabrina for them to be, like, always referring to Susie's character as just they, which is my understanding of what the preference is for non-binary people.
Yeah, that's the standard.
I think it would have been too ambiguous and not clear enough. So what they did instead was kind of keep it more open and be like, well, some people are going to refer to Susie as she because that's what they see and understand. Whereas her grandma, for example, and Roz's grandma and her ghost relative,
great aunt.
Their ghost relative saw Susie for who they really are, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Or it was kind of like, I don't know, I'm talking myself around in circles because it's
no, I get what you're saying.
Not represented
but
enough.
But I'm also, you know me, I'm fucking well on top of this, and my attitude would be, if you're gonna do, like, if Susie is gender fluid, that makes sense to me that she would then be she and him.
Yeah.
If they're going to make the declaration that she's non-binary and they then don't go for they/them pronouns, I will be like, well, that's shit representation because you're not.
But I think you also have to remember that if they are going to represent Susie as non-binary in the show, it's fair enough that the people around Susie might not necessarily understand that and use the right pronouns.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Yeah.
But then
I think that's really what I was trying to say, but couldn't quite.
I get it.
Get the words
but they
in
would,
the right order.
in my opinion, they would then need to deal with that as a thing. Otherwise,
maybe they'll deal with it in the second half.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I'm not saying it was bad.
Because
I was thinking, Liam, you asking Ellie, like, is Susie trans? I think 20 years ago, if you saw this representation on television, like in the 90s, there wouldn't even have been a question of, is Susie trans? It would have been, oh, is she a lesbian?
Yeah.
You know, because, like,
I think it's fair that maybe people that don't have as much understanding as we do through, in all honesty, knowing Ellie, I think if we didn't, like, we wouldn't have necessarily known. We would have just been like, oh, maybe she is a lesbian. I don't think it's necessarily setting it that long ago. It's that still within society now, there is that, like, assumption and misunderstanding around that you would look at Susie and be like, oh, she kind of looks like a lesbian. I don't think that's, like, unreasonable to assume for someone who doesn't know about, like, trans and non-binary.
I think with her, or with them being a non-binary character, I think with Susie, like Ellie said, I hope they do address that, because I think having those representations on television actually help people understand more.
Yeah, but not if they don't know it. Is kind of my point. Is like, if they don't address it, they don't know
it would have been weird if they had just jumped straight to they, them, and not explained it.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like where we are at the moment with, like, Susie's story in the show is they're not aware yet that they're non-binary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
so one other thing this article mentioned, which I thought was interesting and worth discussing, is like Susie's storyline in the first half is that she keeps getting beaten up by these, like, jocks, right?
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
And for a show that is quite progressive in some ways, the way that Sabrina and the Weird Sisters decide to deal with that can be seen as super problematic, which when I was watching it, I didn't pick up on. But after reading the article lay it out, I was like, oh, I kind of get that. Which is, you know, they make the jocks, like, make out with each other.
Yeah.
So then you've got, like,
and they're preying on the jocks' homophobia.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that can be seen as problematic from, like, a homosexual representation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about that when I watched it. I was like, oh, this
was
is
that, there was, for me, it was like, they could have done something else to torture those jocks rather than make them make out with each other.
Yeah, like the Weird Sisters, like, taking their manhood and, like, making them impotent for a while.
Yeah.
That seemed like a much more just, like, punishment.
I guess that's more difficult to then, like, portray, if that makes sense, like, of being like, well, how would that story play out in the, like, alongside the main storyline for us to be like, oh, that's how they got them? Would it have been enough for them to have just been like, oh yeah, we took away their, like, manhood?
I am just picturing a scene where one of the jocks walks into school though and goes, I can't masturbate anymore.
I can't get it up. But yeah, no, I agree that was
that scene
problematic.
in The Inbetweeners.
I can't remember which scene even.
No.
Where he's just punching himself in the dick, being like, why won't you get big?
Oh yeah.
Very good, Liam.
I have one more question about Susie before we move on. Do you think her aunt is a good, like, her ghost aunt, Dorothea, is a good entity? Like, a good influence or a bad influence on her?
I feel like she's sort of a role model influence currently. Whether that will then later turn out that she's not that two-dimensional and actually there's more to Dorothy, I don't know whether they're going to bother to do that or not. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Has she done anything evil? I guess making Susie talk to herself when her dad can hear is kind of not necessarily good spirit territory, because the dad has a couple of times walked in and been like,
who are you
hey,
what was that?
Who are you talking to? Also, is it even, it could be that it's not even real, because isn't her, what happened to her uncle in the end? Or not her uncle, the guy...
it was her uncle, Uncle Jesse, I think was his name. He was like, possessed, because they had to do the exorcism.
Yeah, that's right.
I just worry about her aunt, because, like, she encouraged Susie to steal a book.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's true.
And she also encouraged Susie to, like, dangerously go into the mine.
Yeah.
That's the biggest question mark for me then. Like, more than stealing the book, because maybe stealing the book was like a greater good thing. But I would argue that going into the mine wasn't, really.
Yeah, because all she got was the helmet, right?
Yeah. I don't know.
I did like the literary reference that the book that she was stealing was Virginia Woolf.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, is it a greater good thing or not?
I'm not sure, but I liked that then, I think it was like maybe the next episode or two, when Hilda announces that she needs to move out of the bedroom of Zelda, and she goes, I need a room of my own. Because that was Virginia Woolf's thing, is every woman needs a room of her own. I was like, that's some clever writing there. But I wasn't, I don't know. I that's where I'm like, I'm not sure. I wondered if you guys thought like the ghost aunt is a good force or a bad force, or if there's something more going on there.
I could see them taking a like, I feel like it could be that she's neither. Like she was a good person in life, but maybe her influence on Susie isn't great because she encourages more dangerous risk taking than maybe Susie is capable or should be doing, sort of thing.
But again, like, I would maybe think, maybe again that is a greater good thing, that Susie is quite a, like, I maybe there's a better word for this, but like a closeted character, like not really a risk taker, not really willing to she's like
more reserved.
Yeah. So maybe doing these more risky things isn't necessarily a bad influence, but more of a like come out of your shell situation, like gradually easing Susie towards being more open and less reserved. Yeah. Potentially.
I think where we are at the moment, it could go either way.
Yeah.
Like it could be that it's a force used for their own motivations, which maybe could be put in Susie in harm's way. Like there could be like a grander plan at play there, or like Kat was saying, it could be a way of like helping Susie like be more comfortable with who she is and get her out of her shell.
Yeah, I haven't decided how I feel. I'm like, she's helped in some ways, but then like encouraging bad behavior,
which I think is good, because that does mean that it's believable for the show to take that character in different directions.
Yeah. And also the way like Susie won't tell anyone.
Yes.
About
that is weird. After Roz is like, I'm seeing visions, and Sabrina's like, I'm a literal witch, and Susie's like, my aunt told me, I read her diary. And you're like, everyone's telling you crazy shit, Susie, just tell them.
Yeah.
I'm pleased that we got to that stage where the friends found out, because that's always like an annoying trope in this sort of thing, where it's like, I have to keep that secret.
Yeah.
Well, and it makes me, especially like with the Christmas episode, that Roz realizes something is amiss with Susie being gone, and then like goes over to the house, and now everybody knows, like Roz knows they're witches, so they're like, yeah, we're gonna go expel this demon, here, watch the baby. Like I like that Sabrina's sort of like getting her Scooby gang, and I think that's another reason like I thought of like Buffy is like
that's true.
And also, in some respects, the Vampire Diaries, because I don't know that anybody's watched that show. I've watched most of it, but like a lot of like the mortal friends eventually end up like getting their own little powers and things like that too. So like in that way, they get to become included and in all the magical hijink.
Yeah. Which, again, does sort of happen with Buffy, because you got Willow goes down the witch route.
Yeah.
Xander, I don't know, loses an eye.
He gets the military knowledge when he... when he's in the Halloween episode. I know way too much about Buffy.
Yeah. But then everyone else is either like a demon or a vampire in the Scooby Gang, aren't they? Or a werewolf.
Yeah, like everybody has something going on. And so I feel like you're starting to get that here. Which, again, I like you said, that trope of like, oh, they can't know about me. I'm always like, okay, let's just get this over with. Everybody find out.
Exactly.
And I liked the way that Roz and Susie were like freaked out and then just like, well, no, of course, you're Sabrina and we still love you and we're here for you. And
I did quite like with the Harvey as well. Him being like, "Oh,
The
you told me this
Harvey.
before."
The Harvey.
The Harvey thing.
Yeah, that was good. That it came back to bite her in the ass that she'd wiped his memory. When he's like, "Wait, you've told me this," and she's like, "Yeah, I had to wipe your memory," and he's like, "Oh, right, cool, great." She has done a lot of mean things to Harvey because wiping someone's memory—that's real bad.
Yeah. That always
Harvey's
causes
great.
problems in a relationship. Just like in Buffy
Yeah.
with Willow and yeah.
I remember when Liam wiped Kat's memory.
Uh-oh.
Every day.
It's reset.
Kat wakes up and goes, "Why am I still with you?" And Liam goes, "Here we go, wipe that
That
memory
doesn't
away."
explain a lot, you know. It really does.
It does. Yeah.
Can we talk about, very quickly, my second favourite character, who doesn't get enough screen time, but I love him, like, almost as much as I love Thingy.
Is it the guy that owns
Ambrose.
the bookshop?
No, it's Salem.
Oh.
Demon Salem, who I love so fucking much, because he's got such an interesting storyline that they have shown us literally nothing about.
Yeah.
He's every other witch forces a familiar into working with them, but Salem is this weird summoned demon that we've seen once in the entire show in his true form, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
He's like creeping around the
Yeah,
Ooh.
literally just that
Yeah, I
fucking
need
figure
more
standing
of that.
behind her mirror.
I need more of
And then-
Demon Salem.
And he's also like, he solves so many problems, or looks like he knows what's going on, and then Sabrina's like, "No, Salem, shush, go do something." And I'm like, Sabrina, he's the smartest fucking thing here. He's always knows what's going on. Listen to your cat.
But I think people that don't necessarily know much about the world, like the universe of Sabrina, really necessarily know that that's what Salem's doing, if that makes sense. Like
No, I know.
when he first comes along as the like big creepy demon thing, you don't actually know that he's like super smart unless you know more about
No,
Salem, if that makes
but
sense.
I just love him. He's just great. I also do need to see his creepy demon form, like, at least once more in the next part.
Yeah.
Do you think they made a good choice by not having him talk?
Yeah, well, so the reason he doesn't talk is because in the original sitcom they combined two characters, which was Ambrose and Salem. Because in the original sitcom, Salem is a warlock who can not leave the house. He's broken the rules,
Yeah.
and he is also a cat.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
in this one, they've separated the two characters back out. So
Right.
you've got Salem, Sabrina's familiar, and Ambrose, the warlock in punishment.
I'm fine with him not talking. But I
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I like the way both like Sabrina and Ambrose just talk to him like he is talking to them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially towards the end of the season, there are some bits where Salem just walks up, meows, and Sabrina has not a full blown conversation, but she's like, "No, Salem, that's not what I was thinking. I'm going to do this," and I'm like, so clearly Salem has got this whole thing going on. I love it.
I mean, I feel like they handle it the same way like in Star Wars whenever R2-D2 talks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like people are like, "Oh, R2 blah 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 blah." Like they,
Yeah.
they kind of repeat what he's saying or answer to it so that you understand what's being said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be weird if they had like a whole scene where Sabrina was just going, "No, yes, sure, no, 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 yeah, okay," and you were like, "Sorry, what?"
Yeah. Another couple characters I feel like we should sort of hit on because they are actual main characters are Mrs. Wardwell
Yeah.
Yeah.
or Miss Wardwell. I love Michelle Gomez. I thought she was fantastic as Missy in Doctor Who. So
I stopped watching like just before she kind of started being in Doctor Who.
she,
Because that was Capaldi, wasn't it?
yeah, I
Yeah.
loved Peter Capaldi as Doctor Who. He's my second favorite after Tennant, but she was fantastic in that. So I was super excited to see her in this, and she does a really good American accent.
Yeah.
To be honest, I didn't actually know that she wasn't American because I didn't know her from
No.
anything else, so that says
Yeah.
a lot, I think.
She's Scottish.
Yeah.
So
Is she?
Oh, fair enough.
I
yeah,
suppose that makes, yeah.
she's married to Jack Davenport.
What? I actually know who Jack Davenport is, so I'm like, oh shit. Didn't know
Well,
that.
he's
don't, so
connected
I'm
to
less
someone
amazed.
in this show, isn't
Yes,
he?
because he was
Beyond,
in,
obviously,
he was
his
in
wife.
Coupling, and as is what's his face. I can't remember his
Yeah.
name, but yeah.
Richard Coyle, I want to say. Could
Yeah.
be wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the show. I'm going to carry on. You guys are all getting distracted by these actors that I don't know, so I'm going to go back to
Sorry.
Miss Wardwell.
Yeah.
She's not the best representation of Lilith, but I'm fine with that.
Hey?
she's Lilith, Miss whatever it is, Miss Satan, but she says, I'm Lilith, the mother of monsters, the first wife of Adam, who, all that stuff, which is the mythological Lilith. That is who she is.
Right.
But Lilith is like, she's co-opted a lot as a pretty fucking good example of proper feminism. She's like the reason, like in the original mythology that surrounds her, the idea was that God made Adam and Lilith, who were equals, and Lilith was basically just like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna let you fuck me a whole lot, Adam. I'm gonna like do my own shit. And then got thrown out of the Garden of Eden because she was basically just like, I'm not gonna let a dude walk all over me. And then God was like, yeah, she kind of sucked. I'm gonna make Eve. So like the original Lilith is this badass like woman who admittedly then went on to become a succubus demon who stole babies a lot, but like she's awesome. And then in this I was like, oh, it's kind of a shame that Lilith is kind of a bitch because she's like fucking up Sabrina's life. There was a whole bit where it looked like she was gonna actually be like, oh, I kind of like Sabrina.
Well,
but then towards the end she's gone back.
It's like she, at times you're happy she's there because she is keeping Sabrina safe, but then other times she's just being super manipulative.
Yeah.
And I think Michelle Gomez plays that line really well.
Yeah, she does. There's definitely times where you're just like, is she helping Sabrina, or like is she? Oh, it is slightly like, I know I've used this word like a million times in this episode, but it is slightly ambiguous.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But
I also like that she killed the principal at the end.
Yeah.
Yes, Bronson Pinchot, who I was so surprised to see in this, which you guys might not know who he is.
No.
I do not.
But he played Balky in this sitcom that was on when I was little called Perfect Strangers that I watched.
Yeah,
which
we definitely didn't get that over here.
No, some Americans might know. But, like, I always think, and Balky was, like, this super, like, goofy, supposed to be, like, Eastern European, like, character. So to see him in a more, I mean, it's still kind of humorous, but, like, definitely a more dramatic role, I was just like, oh, that's surprising.
So Ellie touched on an interesting thing there where she said like Lilith was like the original form of feminism or something. How do we think the show handles feminism?
I really like how feminist the show is, because it's even calling out like as simple as, I mean, talking about like the whole idea of like Lilith and Adam and Eve, but like in the dream sequence that Zelda has where she's like reading to the witch kids and she's like, and was it bad that Eve did this? No, like that kind of stuff, because in Christianity, like there's so much about like women are inherently evil because Eve ate the apple, and I like how much this show calls out that sort of hypocrisy of the patriarchy, and that like not just in Christianity but like in this like Church of Night also, the whole idea that like even at the end like Faustus is like, oh, it's my only begotten son, and like you know, all of that stuff, and that, you know, Zelda, and I mean also Prudence knows about this, and it goes along with like saving this girl because she knows that women aren't treated as well, and like how much they're constantly like calling that out, but then the women are actually the ones that have all the power.
Yeah, I was going to say the thing for me about the show that is like a running theme is this sort of like female empowerment element to it. I mean, that was always going to be the case when you're dealing with witches that have like powers. Like that it's very easy to link that with female empowerment, but there are like moments, and I wish I could remember what it was, but there's a line that I think it might actually be what's her name? Who we were just talking about. Who's it?
Miss Wardrobe.
Yeah, she says something. I wish I could remember what it was, but in this episode that was like, I think I remember being like either saying out loud or thinking, fuck yeah, because it was like this real like feminist moment.
Yeah, I remember you responding to that.
Yeah,
I don't remember what the line
really
was,
annoying.
but I remember
it's going to really bother me that I can't remember what the line was. But yeah, there's definitely moments throughout the series where it is quite deliberately, like, it's almost like pointing, saying, yes, we're being feminist in this moment, pay attention to this, it's like important, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And there are at least 3 episodes that are directed by women, which is nice to see.
Yeah.
And there are some women writers as well.
Liam, I
I
love
was
how
hoping
you've
IMDb would have like a quote bit, but they don't.
I was going to say, I love how you've just like brought up this topic of like, oh, is it feminist? Is it not? And then you've just gone like super quiet.
Yeah, no, I was checking something.
Okay.
Well, Ellie and Liam got into that at the end of their last Nerd on Nerd episode of, was it feminist or just empowering?
Yeah. I don't remember what we said, because I often don't.
Wait, about Sabrina? Or about whatever we talked about last time? Lumberjanes.
Sabrina.
Okay.
You can't even.
Yeah.
I like how
remember,
neither
but
one
you
of you
can't.
remember this.
I think it's a bit of both, generally. I think it errs more on the empowerment element.
I think it is feminist too, though, because it is constantly calling out the patriarchy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Dark Lord as symbolising the patriarchy...
And Sabrina's
then
like, fuck that.
the main character is literally being like, no, fuck this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even, like, it feels like there's possibly going to be some sort of plot with Miss Wardwell not being best pleased with the Dark Lord after the whole she made a deal with him, and it looks like he's maybe reneging on that deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I feel like...
So I'm sort of hopeful there'll be a big, like, no, fuck the Dark Lord, we're our own thing.
I wonder if there will be something like that, because her whole motive seems to be that she wants to rule in hell next to Satan.
Yeah.
And then her familiar is like, it kind of seems like he's trying to get Sabrina to do that, and then she kills her familiar because of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a bit mean.
She was livid.
She had a cool familiar.
But can she still talk to him? Because she, like, stuffed him and has him in her office.
Yeah, it does feel like in this show, maybe death is not always death, because she then actually speaks to it in the office, and, like, it did feel like... I was expecting the crow to move at that point, because I was like, oh, is it just that she's murdered it, but she's bringing it back?
Yeah. Well,
I guess we'll see.
and speaking of familiars, Ambrose is given, like, that mouse as a familiar.
Yeah, Leviathan.
And I feel like because Leviathan came from Faustus, it shouldn't be trusted.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
immediately
100%.
I was like, oh, that's a spy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that mouse is just going to run all over the Spellman house and report back to Faustus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also wonder how important its name is, because Leviathan is another thing from that sort of mythology, but I can't exactly remember what off the top of my head. But I know
It's
that
a
Leviathan
sea
ties into
creature.
the Lilith myth. The what?
It's a sea creature.
So that's the, like, I think that's the like, where it went to, but originally Leviathan was something else. It was like one of the creatures of Lilith or something, because she is the mother of monsters.
I know it's...
So I don't know.
I know it's also mentioned in the Bible.
Yes, yeah. It's one of those, like, proper mythological things. But I just wonder if it was, like, I haven't researched it, because I equally am just like, it's also quite a good name. And it could easily be they were like, that's a cool sounding name that we could give to a mouse.
Well, my husband's friend named his child that also. So...
That's pretty cool.
And calls him Levi.
That's quite cool.
What about Faustus? What do we think about him?
He's a naughty one.
Yeah,
well,
very good, Liam.
There's no ambiguity with. That's my
He is a
word of
naughty
the
one.
day. There's none of that with him. He's just like straight up bad, I think.
Yeah.
Every now and again he'll do something and I'm like, oh, maybe there's a glimmer of hope there, but then I'm like, I'm also pretty positive he killed Sabrina's parents, so...
Yeah.
I think he's definitely... I think he
Yeah.
got jealous that Sabrina's father surpassed him.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. Also weird that he got Zelda into, like, self-flagellation for a little bit.
That
Yeah.
was an odd path to go down.
Yeah, he's like, I want to cheat on my wife, and then he's like, well, this is pretty tame, so why don't we also beat ourselves with whips? I was like, okay, what?
Yeah, I kind of feel like they were like, we need a little more sex right now because Sabrina's not going to do that.
Yeah.
And they already had the orgy with Prudence, so...
True.
And Nicholas Scratch, who totally has the biggest crush on Sabrina ever.
I prefer the idea of Sabrina being with him
Me too.
than with Harvey.
Yep. Yeah.
No, it doesn't work. You said this
I
before.
don't care if it doesn't
Yeah.
work.
No,
It would
I know,
be
but
more
she has to
interesting.
date a mortal. She has to date a mortal because the moment she is dating a witch or warlock, you remove the mortal side of her, and the whole point of this show is going to be Sabrina battling with the mortal side of her and the witch side.
I at least want to see them make out.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'd
I
be fine
100%
with just
think
that.
there will be a bit where they date.
Yeah.
I think that with this whole breakup, they'll date, but it will end badly and she'll go back to Harvey.
Nah.
Or go back to wanting Harvey and Harvey being like, I don't like magic. I shot my brother.
Yeah, Harvey's a whiny character, isn't he?
I think Harvey's going to end up with some sort of magical powers of some kind, and he's going to have to deal with
Oh,
that.
that's self-hatred.
Yes. And then he's going to have to come to terms with, he makes decisions the same kinds that Sabrina does, and then he'll be like, oh, now I understand.
He
Yeah.
resurrects Sabrina's dead parents, but then they come back as husks, and then Sabrina has to shoot them.
Ugh.
I pulled a face there that was like, oh, I wish I hadn't said that out loud.
That would be so horrible.
It would be, and I would not want to watch it.
We had some correspondence about Sabrina.
Read it out, Liam.
So Frankie tweeted us at BristFrankie on Twitter. Yeah, Twitter. After failing twice to get into Riverdale, I was happy to find the series is so good. Also very happy to see Richard Coyle, one of my favourite actors. Look forward to hearing what you all think. Oh, also, Kiernan Shipka is so great. I found out she was cast in this just after I saw February, which is also called The Blackcoat's Daughter, and she was amazing in that. I highly recommend it to you all if you haven't seen it, except Amanda doesn't do horror right, best she avoid it. Which, I've heard of that a couple of times recently, and I'm like, oh, I need to see it, but I think finding it in the UK is annoying at the moment.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, Richard Coyle, I responded to Frankie just saying like, I can't not see him as Jeff in Coupling for like the longest time watching this show.
Who is he?
Have you seen Coupling?
No, just tell me which character he plays in Sabrina.
Oh, Faustus.
Oh, okay.
I've seen Coupling, but I feel like he looks so different in this. It didn't.
I kind of grew up watching Coupling, so anytime I see him now, it's same with Jack Davenport.
Yeah. See, Jack Davenport, I always see him in Coupling more for some reason, but...
That was a good show.
Now, did you have that same problem with Lucy Davis as Hilda? Like,
Yes.
thinking
Yeah,
of her
from
from
The Office.
The Office? Okay.
100% yes.
See, this is where me not knowing actors and actresses works really well, because until someone says to me, that person played this person, I don't see
Yeah,
it.
to be fair,
Unless
I
they're
like
super
vaguely
famous.
recognise them, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm sure I've seen them in something else. And then the living, breathing version of IMDb sitting next to me is like, who do you know them from? And I'm like, I don't know. My brain doesn't work like that. And then he just lists off all the things you've seen them in.
You've just made me realise why he was so upset when I insulted IMDb. earlier.
Yeah, because he is IMDb.
He is literally IMDb in human form.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh, sorry, that's so funny. My mom has called me the walking IMDb for years.
See, I think, Amanda, this is just like the problems we face as film fans. When we have to talk to the normies, they just don't understand.
Well, the thing that like always blows my mind is if you're like, oh, that person's been in this, and I'm like, have you seen that? And he's like, no, I just happen to know that they're in it. And I'm like, what?
I have that problem too. But
Yeah.
so you might recognize then Hilda from Wonder Woman
Oh, yeah.
because
No.
she was the secretary at a
Oh
candy.
yeah, yeah. See, I wouldn't have made that connection though.
Yeah, it's not that I don't recognise them, it's when you...
You have to tell me.
My
You
brain
have
doesn't
to
put
be
it
like,
together.
this is
Yeah,
who
as
they
soon
are.
as you tell me, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah, of course that is. But until then, I get to just enjoy a show without being like, who are they?
It's like we're watching the episode which had a young Sabrina in it. I turned to Kat and I was like, you remember her, don't you?
From
And Kat was
I,
like,
Tanya?
no. And I was like, Gifted, McKenna Grace.
Yeah.
And then Kat was like, oh yeah, I remember now.
Exactly.
See, I will watch it and instantly, I normally, if I'm, particularly when I'm watching television, when I'm watching a movie, I usually just watch the movie through and then look stuff up. But if I'm watching a TV show, I'll just like pause and I have to go and double check. I'm like, I know that face. What do I know that face from?
Yeah.
And then I go down Wikipedia spirals.
Have we had any other correspondence, Liam?
No,
Oh, okay.
that's it.
So what does everyone give Chilling Adventures of Sabrina out of 5? I should have asked who.
Yeah.
Amanda, what do you give it out of 5?
Damn it.
Do you want me to go to someone else?
Yeah, go to someone else first.
Liam.
4 out of 5.
Kat.
4 out of 5.
I think I'll give it a 4.5 out of 5. Amanda.
I think I'm at 4 out of 5.
Cool.
I liked it a lot, and I'm very it grew on me, like, as it went on.
Yeah, I
feel
was
like
exactly the same.
the second half of the season is definitely stronger.
Yeah.
It is. I did enjoy it from the get-go, but because I was watching it with Kat, and I think because each episode is, like an hour long?
Yeah.
Oh, here we
I'd
go.
sit
He's
down
going to
with
moan
Kat.
about me now. Go on.
Yeah. I'd sit down with
It's
Kat.
the Valentine's Day special, Kat.
Yeah,
Of
it would
course
be
he's gonna moan at
Valentine's
you.
Day if Liam wasn't complaining about the fact that I don't binge like he does. Go on.
Go
Go
on,
on,
then.
Liam. Go on.
So, I'd sit down with Kat and I'd be like, should we watch an episode of Sabrina? And she'd be like, nah, don't want to, it's too long.
It's
And like
sometimes...
the issue I had is, because I was into it from like the
I
first
wasn't.
couple of episodes. And it took Kat like until probably about episode 6 or 7
Yeah.
to get into it, to be like, oh yeah, let's watch more.
Yeah, and then I'd be like, oh, can we watch a second one? And he's like, no, don't want to watch a second one.
Yeah, I can do 1 a night, but like 2. I've
This
got
is
other
how it
things to
works
get
for
on
me. It
with.
takes me longer to get into it, but then when I'm into it, I'm like, I want to like get it watched.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you still have like a lower threshold. Like if I'm like This Is Us, I could have watched loads of that. and
No,
you'd be
it's
like,
too hard.
Two's enough.
It's too heartbreaking. I can't be dealing with it.
Yeah, it's-
I'm like, I've had enough of my heart being trampled on. Let's watch something else.
To be fair, by the end of the second season, I was like,
Yeah,
I was like, I can't do
exactly.
more than 1 a night.
Yeah.
But I'm not criticising Catherine.
Yeah, all right.
I'm just pointing out room for improvement.
Whatever.
Wow.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
What do we think of, because this is our Valentine's Day special, what do we think of how Sabrina handles the theme of love?
Oh, Jesus, you're really reaching now.
Liam, you can't see. Let me just... I realise my camera's off, so I can't do this very well. What I just did there was I pulled a face and I lifted my arms in a sort of like, what are you doing? Because what I had done is I'd ended that segment.
Yes.
And I don't know if you noticed that, Liam. I did it quite subtly
Yeah.
by asking everyone what
You
to
did,
rate it.
and I'll be
So
honest,
what that means
I was
is...
grateful because I was like, we're coming
And-
up to
yeah.
4 hours of recording now.
Yeah, I usually do that face when we get to about 4 hours,
Yeah.
and I'm like,
Okay,
cool, this is
we're
one
done now.
episode. Yeah,
In
I'm
one
already like,
sentence
this
or
might have to be a
less.
2-parter. I might have to release this on 2 different days as a 2-parter because this is too long to put on someone's feed.
Yeah.
In one
So
sentence or less,
what we're
then,
going to
do
do,
we think?
what we're going to do,
I think
we're
it
gonna
handles
just-
it interestingly.
I'm going to say that, Kat, have you got anything you'd like to plug?
Not really, no. Just
Oh, you've got a
I
blog?
haven't written on it for weeks. It's called
got a
Creatively
Twitter?
Cat, creativelycat.co.uk if you fancy reading content that is irregular.
You're a
But
freelancer.
you do
Fuck your
sometimes get a
business.
picture of Liam.
Rarely.
Yeah, very rarely. The more he asks for that, the less I do it. So,
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
fair.
correspondence for this show.
so
The more I
yeah,
ask, the less
that's
we
my
get.
little plug.
No, you're a freelancer as well. If anyone wants any business
Oh
needs...
my god, I'm not plugging my business.
Right?
Amanda?
So I have several podcasts. We talked a little bit about Criterion Crack. My main podcast is Amanda's Picture Show A Go-Go on Twitter. That's at Amanda's Pic Show. I also do one called The Mafia Minute, where I'm watching currently The Godfather minute by minute with my friend Steven. And then I also do Culture Pop A Go-Go, where I talk about pop culture with my mom and sisters. And you can find all of those on my website, amandaagogo.com.
That's how you plug
Right.
something.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
that is
Smashed it.
impressive.
Me and
Hello?
Liam we do this show and other stuff.
What?
We do this show and some other stuff. There you go.
Yeah. What are we doing next time, though?
Oh yeah, we're doing. We spoke about it on the podcast, right? That we'd done like a Paranormal Activity. Yeah, we did.
I don't know. Amanda will tell us
Yes,
if we
you
did.
did.
We definitely did.
Thanks, Amanda.
So yeah, listeners will remember that me and Liam watched the entire Paranormal Activity series. realised it was going to take too long and started cutting stuff off that list quite quickly. One of those films was The Marked Ones. Another was Paranormal Activity 2 Tokyo Night or something, which we're never going to find. So next week...
It has a release, right?
Oh my God.
But the release has... So the release is obviously in Japanese. The subtitles on the release is German or Japanese or French.
Cool. So we're not doing that.
Thanks,
we're
Liam.
doing the marked ones. We're doing the marked ones. And we'll also, before that episode goes up, I'll release the other audio of us reviewing the Paranormal Activity series as a special episode on the stream. So look out for that. It will come up soon in the next 2 weeks. Get in contact with us and let us know what you thought about Chilling Adventures of Sabrina at NerdOnNerd on Twitter, nerdonnerdpod@gmail.com on email, and facebook.com/nerdonnerdpod, all one word.
Yep.
Rate us on iTunes, YouTube, Nerd on Nerd.
Final thoughts?
Ambiguity.
Yeah. So much ambiguity.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.